Recently, I've been having a really fun time enjoying some of these maps that are a lot less often played. So I figured today, why not continue the trend? Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Brightworks, where today I've got another matchup beyond all reason for you today, taking a look at Kolmogorov Remake, version 3.0.1, and spawning on the northeastern side. Representing our blue team as an Armada commander and already going into their first of 3 wind turbines. It's going to be Mad Dog 411. Going into 3 wind turbines into the metal extractor. We've seen it before and we've seen it a lot. Very stock standard opener here. We'll check back in just a minute to see what the tech transition is going to be, but I'm suspecting it's either going to be vehicles or bots. Not really any reason to go AR on the front lines here on this map, or, well, really any map. Wow. We have a very far push forward here by the yellow player on the red team, but that is not the red team leader. The red team leader going to be Leyline Leela. She spawned in the back here, got her 2 metal extractors up and running, 3 wind turbines, and is already going into a bot lab. Going to be going into those Cortex spots, so we'll see grunts, thugs, aggravators, agitators? Aggravators, that's the one. I always get those mixed up. Should be some good fun right here. So, for anybody who doesn't know, this map is pretty interesting because all of these hillsides are traversable by bots. So every single one of these hillsides can be climbed up and down, left, right, through and around by bots. However, vehicles cannot. So vehicles can only take the outer rows. They have to kind of go all the way around, in through the valleys, up through the hills, all that sort of stuff. Whereas the bots, as you can see, can just run right up and over the hills and all the way down. It means that this map has a tremendously short rush distance. Both teams here going to be basically starting right on top of each other here, especially Harpy Face, who is essentially spawning right in the middle of the map right here. Feels a little insane that that player got there so quickly. I wondered if maybe they just spawned and walked forward, but either way, it's going to mean that, yeah, yellow forces are going to be right across the map basically as quick as possible. There is a scout plane out here for Plainfield, going to find the yellow commander that's so far forward right there. Centurion up on this hill, blasting away at Real Graf Zal, who does not have the energy to D-gun right now, so this Centurion is a hero. There it goes. Centurions can just barely outrange commanders if you micro them properly. Oh, Centurion does escape with its life before, well, not before bringing that commander down to 45% though. And there's a resbot here to patch it all up. So this is a very cheeky strategy. Those Centurions are very, very high health and also very high damage. They do an excellent job of dealing with early commanders as well as grunt spam. They're very, very nice. And it's one of those things that we've seen a little bit more of recently. Just people kind of teetering on the edge of experimentation with those, but it feels like we haven't quite settled into a full-blown meta. But that feels like a certain step in the right direction here. The Resbot Centurion meta definitely feels quite powerful, especially considering how low this commander already is, and with the energy infrastructure devastated, there's no way that this commander is going to have enough energy to actually D-gun down any of these Centurions, meaning it's only the laser cannon that the, well, our powder blue commander has at the moment to protect themselves with. Grunts running away from ticks over here, trying desperately to flee for their lives, but they will not manage to. The tick swarm always prevails. Here's a Centurion in the main base. The Resbot was just patched him up while these Rocketeers and everybody were firing away. That is a three chevron Centurion right there, blasting away at the laboratory. And yeah, not dealt with yet. Just continuing to fire away. My goodness, the Centurion manages to snipe the laboratory. That's impressive. Takes down the constructors with it. That's always nice. Going to be able to deal with these Rocketeers too. No reason that Centurion can't out-kite those Rocketeers. And it's going to head into the backline here. My goodness. What an effective unit right there. That is 270 metal well spent right here for Harpy Face. I'm sure that they've got to be more than thrilled with the performance from that Centurion right there. Essentially shutting down an entire player's worth of, well, metal, production, all sorts of stuff. Very, very dangerous to deal with. Mad Dog has moved over on the left-hand side as well. Got a couple of blitzes, but a lot of them are down right now. Needs to use the commander to eat up that metal. Critical metal shortage right now. Contesting the metal spots as few and far between as they are in this map means that it's going to be much, much more important here. And so this 2, 4, 6 metal per second going back to the red team might not seem like a whole lot, but it's instrumental to their success, and it will mean the world of a difference as we get into the mid-game here. 4 minutes in, is anybody looking at T2? There is. Okay, so the blue team is thinking about going for a shared T2 economy here. So you can see the green commander and the, I guess, sort of lavender-ish colored commander both going into a T2 lab right now. They'll have that T2 up and running, and eventually they'll be able to get into a proper T2 economy. I'd love to see this construction bot just go help out this construction bot. Usually 2 to a wind turbine farm just tends to work out pretty good. They usually manage to keep themselves split up enough that they can effectively build it without getting in each other's way. Tremendous shout out, by the way, to the powder blue player for sticking in the game. This is a heartbreaking scenario to get yourself back into here, trying to put together some sort of a force on the front lines here. Very, very nicely done, sir. Yeah, grunts jumping on top of a whole bunch of thugs and fellow grunts here. They're going to be more than happy to tear apart that army, though. Yep, down they go. Gonna settle for the construct over here rather than chasing the army down, and I think that's probably well worth it. Resbot over here could be used to eat up all this metal, but it is tied to the Centurion at the moment. We'd love to see a resurrection here, maybe picking up this other Centurion, trying to get it all. Yeah, there we go. Nicely done. We're just going to resurrect everything, but I think that Centurion's well included in that. Bombing run over here, trying to do some damage. I really think these bombers need to go after the economy. There's tons and tons of wind turbines over here. Do we have a scout, though? We do not have a scout. No effective scouting has been done right here by Plainfield. There was that scout in the early game, but I don't think it managed to see the bases back here. Stormbringers, oh no. Yeah, they don't have any scouting, so their bombing is very inefficient right now. One of them goes down before it even manages to drop anything. The other one looping around here, and I don't think it's going to get much just based on the bombing run that we're seeing right now. Yeah, doesn't even manage to take down a wind turbine as it plummets towards the ground. The red team, meanwhile, has also got T2 up. We went to T2 vehicles, though, and that should be interesting. That does mean we're going to have access to the console here. That could be quite useful as far as the Armada, or rather, as far as the red team, rather, is going to be concerned. Those consoles can produce Webbers, they can produce Sprinters, so they can make some effective stuff on the front lines. Not to mention they can also build beamer turrets, which are very effective, especially against the T1 units. Wouldn't mind seeing a couple of those thrown up on the front lines either. Yeah, a lot of wreckage over here. It looks like Snezhak has gotten themselves a little bit back into this game, but not all the way yet. Sprinters running to the front lines here, trying desperately to help out. Nice D-guns right there, taking out a couple of those grunts. Going to mean that the light blue commander does survive this engagement here, and the units do prevail. Harpy Face in a peculiar situation right here. There's a lot of Centurions that just need to stay alive. Very difficult to get these into a fighting force right here. One similar strategy that I've seen work very well is two Centurions and a commander pushing far forward. You can do a very effective push that way if you just keep your Centurions alive by repairing them with the commander as well as a Resbot if you can afford it in the early game. It can be a very, very dangerous composition to go up against. Nicely done by the Resbots over here, by the way, keeping all these units patched up. Well, as patched up as they can, I suppose. A couple of them do go down to the Shell Shockers now firing away from Mad Dog. It's a very low metal map overall, so we're seeing a very slow transition, gradual transition into the T2. I think whichever team manages to greed the hardest in the backline is probably going to be able to get the first T3 unit out, and it's probably going to be a Razorback if I had to guess, and it's probably going to make all the difference as soon as it hits the lines. In the meanwhile, everybody fighting for as much full frontal ground as possible here. Harpy Face doing an excellent job of contesting this area, though, making sure that at the very least, this middle section of the map doesn't get collapsed inwards and broken. A bunch of Banshees have been spared off the coast over here. We do have a bomber going in for another bombing run. It's going to soften up, I guess, one of those anti-air turrets. And down goes the anti-air turrets. All right, a couple of those. Ooh, energy converters were right next to the beamer turret here as well. Yeah, we gotta take out the build power first, I do believe. I guess it's not the end of the world. Beamer turret will go down, and gunships continue to ravage this base back here. This is actually really nice. Yeah, good aggression over here. The anti-air goes down, means that there's basically no way for these gunships to get shot out of the sky. Well, constructor goes down right there as well. That was the only other option there was for building any anti-air. And now, Banshees doing some tremendous work out here. Typically, the Banshee, not one of the units that I consider to be very efficient, but at the very least, if it's used in the right context, in the right spots, and at the right time, a whole lot of things have to go right for it. But if you can find the opening, as we've seen right here by Plainfield, they certainly can absolutely smash house. Just like that, Zek is completely out of production. Yeah, no more production in the backline right there for the Orange Commander. Wind Turbine's also going to start slowly falling here. We'd love to see these Banshees continuing to push forward here, start harassing some of the other bases. You've effectively completely shut down this base already. There's no need to continue the aggression over here, although shutting down the energy storage is quite nice. But yeah, you should start moving these backwards and start aggressing everything else. Take as much damage off of the red team, or well, onto the red team, I suppose, as you possibly can. Everybody getting ready to transition into T2 here. We do have some T2 metal extractors built up in the back lines. We're producing a whole bunch of these sprinters over here. I wonder if maybe something like hounds wouldn't be a little bit better, just for the fact that they can push up these hills a little easier, and eventually they'll be able to move in with a little less trouble. Either way, Banshees, man, getting so much value in the backline right here. Do we not have an air player? It doesn't look like it. Yeah, there was no air player for the red team, so they were all relying on anti-air. But it's absolutely come back to bite them in the butt right now, as, yeah, Banshees have now completely shut down the entire backline for the maroon player as well. T2 Lab is still up and standing, but it won't be standing for too much longer. 56% now, and it's dropping quickly. Yeah, those Banshees, tremendously effective right here. I think this is going to be my screenshot. That's a good set of Banshees right there. They've definitely done more work than I think I've ever seen Banshees do before. There they go. T2 Lab goes down. Yeah, all right. Nicely done right there by our Seafoam Green player. Doing the very, very most. I'd love to see some of these fighters pulled to go guard all those Banshees, maybe. Maybe not worth it, though. Sacrificing those fighters over here might just be a futile effort, and eventually they would all go down anyway, so maybe not. Maybe sacrificing the Banshees, they've definitely gotten their values worth already. It's probably been well worth it as far as they're concerned. Nice D-guns over here by Aquati. He shuts down so many of those medium tanks with the D-guns from the commander. Oh, that really burns hundreds and hundreds of metal, if not thousands and thousands of metal, right down the drain by a couple of clicks from that commander. It's one of those reasons you got to be so careful pushing into those commanders. They can really, really badly hinder your assault. Agitator up here on the hillside, firing down into the valleys below. It's quite nice. Still producing Centurion over here. You get caught in this weird sort of a situation where you don't have enough economy on the field or in production in order to actually transition any ways. And I think that's exactly where Harpy Face is finding themselves right now, where they've got all these units and they've got all the production, but, well, actually it's the other way around. They don't have very many units and they don't have very much production. It feels like going for T2 is just too risky. It feels like continuing to produce units is the only option, and I think that's exactly what happened to the Yellow Commander. And at this point, overwhelmed by T2, as is the standard course for this sort of a situation right here. The single Centurion representing the yellow army, the once great yellow army. This has 0 HP to its name. Not 1, not 100. 0 HP to its name. And I'm still standing. It's the theme song for that construction robot there. Big blitz run by over here. Nicely done by the blue commander, Mad Dog, realizing, wait a second, if all of the production for the player that we've been up against for the last, 6 or 7 minutes or so has been taken out over here in the back line, does that mean that I can just move my T1 units in and finish the job? And the answer is an astounding, overwhelming, and downright foreboding yes. Yes, you absolutely can. Pitbull over here trying its very best to shut a lot of this down. It can only do so much, though, and these blitzes do manage to get to the back line. Getting a nice little scout at the very least, if nothing else. Construction turrets trying to tear them apart here. Doing a decent job. Yeah, between the Pitbull and the construction turrets, I think this will be cleaned up quite nicely here. Fiend's also trying to run on over and save the day here. Yeah, and I think they eventually will. Altogether, not too much damage right there on the Tan player. There was a nice big explosion over here. There was a bunch of wind turbines went up for Torch. Yeah, this, oh, well, okay. Would have liked to see the constructors go down before we take out the energy converters, but it might not have been a microable moment. Might have just switched targets without consent. Gauntlet over here on the front lines firing away as well. Couple of Wolverine over here trying to fire as well. Everybody just dump firing into whatever canyon. And now, wow, a lot of the red team is disconnected here. Basically everybody over here on the western seaboard has disconnected. It's the orange player, the yellow player, and I do believe the maroon player, all of which have disconnected after being shut down by those Banshees early on into the game. Well, I say early on, I guess it was about 8, 9, 10 minutes or so into the game. Snezhak in a little bit of trouble here. Those fiends can burn down a commander in moments, so you have to be so careful. You have to afford them so much respect. Otherwise, you will find yourselves with a nuclear explosion on your hands. Never a fun place to find yourself in. Sprinters now moving in for the kill over here on this base. And they're at the very least going to take out a significant portion of the wind turbine energy. Yeah, they're going to get into the main base as well, trying to avoid those energy converters so they don't all die. Not bad. build power goes down, and that's a tremendous pain. Torch D-guns down their own T2 laboratory. That's never good. Things are rapidly crumbling apart right now for the red team as more and more of these forces run on by and start shutting down all of the economy here. That's another challenge of this map that's not often one that we see on all too many maps, but there's not very much buildable space over here. There's a big old mountain over here. I'd love to see some buildings up there maybe, but there's not a whole lot of other buildable space, so trying to go for a really, really densely packed economy is essentially the only effective way. Oh, nice D-guns right there by Southron. Oh, nicely done. Shuts down about half of that Hound army with the commander here. Will it manage to escape? There's enough energy production to stay permanently cloaked. Oh, 3% on that commander. So low. That commander needs to book it out of there. Energy production has plummeted, and now suddenly the commander does not have energy. Oh, it uncloaks for just a moment. And I think that moment will spell its doom. The commander does go down to those Hounds, who fire away one last volley, bringing the brown commander to its knees. We'll love to see these Hounds rather switched into their Gauss mode as opposed to the Plasma mode, just so that they could hit these tanks a little bit easier. Tanks definitely not one of the bigger offenders of that. Slow enough they are, I mean, that they don't really need to be in their Gauss mode, but it does help just a little bit. Try and eke out every efficiency that you possibly can when you have any kind of an advantage. Mad Dog, what's up? We definitely need to start approaching the enemy side of the map, pushing in a little bit harder here. That round of blitzes was great. They just ended up finding a pretty well-defended area. I think if you send a couple more blitzes in towards the Hot Pink player's base, send them in towards Torch's base, you send them in towards Leyline Leela's base, and kind of sweep across this front line, you're going to be able to peel this red team back as if they were an onion. Nice little sprinter run by as well over here. Going to shut down a whole bunch of energy converters. They're going to find some advanced metal extractors as well. Hound's moving towards a massive energy farm right here for Leyline. Going to essentially be able to stop all production for the turbines. It's going to be a slow process tearing down all these turbines because they are spread out here. An excellent move by Leyline Leela, but also annoying to deal with for the Green Commander. Fiends jump on top of these Hounds, actually. Pretty much exactly where you want them. Yeah, those Hounds are going to melt away under the fire of those Fiends. Nice self-D micro right there, I do believe. Eventually, those Hounds start to kite away a little bit more. Sprinter's still in the back line over here, being a nuisance. Looks like we're starting to APM overflow into the back lines here, as is the course for any losing game of Beyond All Reason. But things are definitely looking pretty hopeless here for the red team. That being said, I mean, because of the ecoing that the tan player has done in the backline here, the ecos are actually relatively similar. It partially has to do with the fact that there's not so many metal extractors on this map, that taking a tremendous amount of space on this map doesn't necessarily equate immediately to a tremendous economic benefit. Certainly we're going to want to capture these metal extractors, we're going to want to capture these metal extractors, we're going to want to capture these metal extractors, but it's not like you can really do that immediately as soon as you push in, because your enemy is still so close to the ground that you take that it's very difficult to actually find the space and the time in order to make that advancement. Lightning Tank's going to be more than enough to push through the defenses as shallow as they are here on Guardian's PT's base. And that will mean the Hot Pink Commander's entire facility goes down right now. Lightning Tanks blasting apart that densely condensed economic structure facilities over here. A fusion reactor not going to come up in time. So close and yet so far. And yeah, that is going to be another crippling blow here to the pink player on the red team overall. I would love to see a transition right now from Mad Dogs going into bots rather than vehicles. The vehicles are great and they're extra strong and they're very, very nice for you know, managing to do some damage across the field, but it does come with the hindrance that they can't really take advantage of all these hills over here. So finally, the ecoing is complete. Make APHIS instead of units is a bad idea on this map, says Leyline Leela. 31 true skill and some silver chevrons. Probably knows what they're talking about here. Either way, though, the Marauder are now heading out onto the map, and we do have a couple of them on the front line. These immediately need to be handed over to the front line players here. I think the first 3 of these should probably go to Torch, then a couple to the Hot Pink Commander Guardian's PT, and then a couple to Leyline Leela. And there's nobody down south anymore, but you could hand them over to Southtron just so that there's something to micro down there anyways. Otherwise, you're going to end up overspending your APM on microing units that you really shouldn't be. It's one of those pitfalls that oftentimes we see commanders make. Console being used for expansion over here. This is nicely done by their blue commander. making sure to build as many of these metal extractors as possible. They're so efficient. It's really a shame not to build these. More and more lightning tanks coming up in the back line as well. We are going for some economy. We're building some construction turrets. We're getting ready to step into full-blown T2 production right now. Oh, is there a commander death or something over here? Not quite. The Marauders are spotted, so that's a really good scout, a really important scout right here for the blue team. We're not on T2 air yet, which is actually a little bit of a shame. There's a lot of T1 advanced solar panels here, 2,900 advanced solar panels here. We could certainly turn a lot of that into a T2 lab, and it would do just fine. Advanced constructor not spotted just yet. Oh, he just barely doesn't spy it. He sees the advanced metal extractor going up, but doesn't spy the constructor. Gunships going around, trying to find an angle here. There's loads of fighters out now for the tan players, so they'll be more than happy to shoot those gunships down. Yep, those gunships are going to fall real quick. Fighters here to save the day from the Seafoam Green player. Doing a decent job. These Marauder have to win the game. If these Marauder can't win this game in one decisive push right now, it's just going to be so much metal left on the other side of the map that they essentially will end up paying for the T3 transition here for the blue team. The advantage right now, oh, why are we dumbfiring these? Oh no, there we go. Marauder will absolutely ravage this T2 composition, but not if you group them all up. Those welders are going to have a field day. Their chain lightning is going to, well, chain across the face of all those Marauder and get so much more value than if you just spread them out right here. Really desperately think that we need to see these Marauder handed over right now. Razorback produced as a little bit of a defensive unit. There is a whole bunch of sprinters trying to get into the backline right now. Yeah, the tan player trying to defend themselves and protect other players. It's too much right now for them to handle all on their own. I think we desperately need to see a little bit more handing over of the T3 quality of units here. I mean, you can imagine if these Marauder were microed properly, they would be getting so much more value against the green army right here that the red player Leland could go for 2 res bots and eat up this corpse pile for hours and hours and have more than enough metal to go into a full-blown T2 transition, if not T3. It's the kind of little detail that you really overlook when you're going into some sort of powerful T3 late game economy, is the fact that there might be some dead players that you can just hand some units to and they'll be more than tremendously efficient with them just because they have so much extra APM to spare, microing their ever-living hearts out. T3 gantry coming up right here. Yeah, I think I agree with Neba Chad. It's Neba Chad Neezer. So not Nebuchadnezzar, but Neba Chad Neezer. I think I agree. We should probably eat up the T2 lab. There we go. Gonna eat that up, and it'll be more than enough to help, I guess, fund the advanced fusion reactor as well as fund the completion of the T3 gantry. I think we need to pick or choose here. I think probably T3 gantry or advanced fusion reactor is going to be the right idea for Spy here, but either way, not going to be the end of the world whatsoever. And here are the Razorbacks. Marauder being used as a little bit of a scout here. Going to find the commander of Mad Dog, 411, which will go down lickety-split right there. No cloak on the blue commander, so that's going to go down with essentially no fight. Beamer's going to try their very best to shut down these Razorbacks, but to no avail as they tear apart this entire facility over here very, very quickly. That was really nicely done. That's 4 Razorbacks right now, 4 Eins. They could certainly do some tremendous work. There's no T3 available yet for the blue commander. We need to see Starlight production immediately. If we start up enough Starlights here, we can blast apart the Razorbacks efficiently enough to shut them down and then eat their own metal to fund more and more T2 and eventually T3. But going into Bulls is not going to cut it. Bulls are not going to trade efficiently enough against the Razorbacks unless you have, I don't know, 20 or so Bulls all built up, which is, again, not very efficient. Bombers coming in to, I guess, bomb the advanced solar panels here? I'm not sure exactly what these bombers are doing. I feel like we haven't seen very much effective bombing. It's made up for by the tremendously effective Banshee play that we've seen earlier on. Probably the most efficient Banshee play I think I've seen ever in this game. But yeah, the bombing runs have been a little bit wanting for more here. Stanky B gonna go down right here on the front lines as well. Agitator about to fall. That's that T1 defensive plasma thrower, plasma spitter. Yeah, these Razorbacks are dangerous. We need a commander over here immediately to D-gun these down. T3 units now coming out for Nebuchadnezzar. Well, actually, I guess Spy is producing them and handing him over. Definitely the right idea, at least in my eyes here. But the thing is, a lot of these T3 units can also just go over the hills right here, so there's no reason they actually have to follow this valley. It's convenient for them, too, right now, because there's no defensive setup. And, yeah, this is going to be a pretty effective push, I would say. Pitbull setup. Gets a single kill. Yeah, Pitbulls. They definitely leave a lot to want, especially in comparison to the Sabo turret that the Cortex players have. They definitely feel quite a bit worse. But these Razorbacks are having a field day tearing apart the blue commander's base. They're also going to kill this other Razorback over here. Plainfield moves the commander in. These units are all grouped up. Oh, D-gun. D-gun. Massive D-guns. Yes, huge D-gun connections. One more. Oh, no. Oh, it's so close. Oh, he doesn't get the last two. Still some tremendous D-guns right there. Cutting apart that T3 army like a hot knife through soft butter. A little bit of a Razorback duel over here. I think that makes for a good thumbnail picture as well. Always looking for one of those. That's the hardest part of doing this job. Oh, okay. Yeah, not going to micro the Razorbacks. There we go. Just barely manages to kill it. I was a little worried for a second there. Razorback up on this hill. Also going to be starting to tear apart as many of these forces as possible. Sprinters trying desperately to get some damage done here, and for what it's worth, they actually did manage to bring that Razorback down pretty low. The surround bonus can be tremendous on those. There goes the energy converter, or at least one of them anyways. If we start full-blown Resbot production, we might be able to save this here for the blue team, but it's going to be, it's a dire necessity right now. We're going to need to see, at the very least, I want to say 20 or so Resbots running around patching up all these T3 units so that we have some sort of defensive structure. Hopefully the blue commander can resurrect this base as well. We do have a single constructor available. Oh, there's a second one over here. There's a T1 constructor over here. Oftentimes build power is the hardest thing to get up and running once you've been eliminated like this. And so oftentimes if you're playing as the air commander, let me tell you one thing right now. If you want to be tremendously helpful in the late game, one of the most effective helps that you can offer is just building a whole bunch of T1 air constructors and sending them to people who get their base removed, because yeah, those T1 air constructors going to be phenomenal for rebuilding, at least getting a couple of construction turrets up and running, something like that. Razorback standing strong over here. Snezhak also in position over here to try and keep this area alive. I think Resbots would do great to eat, resurrect commanders, I was going to say, but it looks like that commander's been well eaten already. Oh, yeah, we're already eating up all the wreckage piles over here. A little bit unfortunate. Those wreckage piles are supposed to pay for the blue players' way back into this base, or into this game, rather. More Razorbacks marching across, and this is really hard to push up this hill, but if any unit can do it, I think it's going to be the Razorbacks here. Yep, nice kiting. Razorbacks pull back as those fiends do jump down the mountain here. Sprinter's also going to make a mad dash for it, but definitely not going to be powerful enough to push into 4 full power Razorbacks right there. We've got a nice little force over here. I'd love to see them start to try and do something. There's a single mammoth holding it down over here, but there will shortly be a scorpion turret as well. Scorpion turret's very, very powerful. Extremely effective against anything all the way up to T3. Definitely one of those cases where Cortex has a much better unit by comparison, which is, you know, Armada definitely has far superior air, and you could argue that their T3 units are a little bit better too, but certainly I'll give them that. The Sabo battery they get, the Scorpion battery, very, very powerful indeed. Not exactly an apples to apples comparison. It just functions quite a bit differently here. Sharpshooters are out, and they're actually firing away at these Razorbacks over here. That's quite nice. Yeah, one of them's pretty low here now. 10% left on that Razorback. This is going to turn up the damage to another level, though. Because of the flanking bonus right now from these fiends, you can see that the Sharpshooter is going to do way more damage in single bursts over here. And just like that, those Razorbacks get blasted apart. That's why I was saying the blue player needed to build some of those Starlights. Starlight's essentially the vehicle equivalent to, yeah, building a Sharpshooter. So I'd love to have seen that. Hot Pink Commander has moved on over to this base over here. Commander's been resurrected and is now going to start getting back into this game. This would be an excellent time for the Tan Commander to eco here. I think going for the Thor is probably a mistake. I think more and more Razorbacks is probably the right idea, and fortifying the areas, handing over these units to whatever commanders need them. The Brown Commander is still in this game, but does not have anything to control. part of that, I mean, I have been monitoring chat too. Oh yeah, he did ask for a constructor. Maybe eventually we'll be able to rebuild here if somebody manages to get one. Oftentimes that's the source of many a woe is, yeah, you ask for a constructor and everyone's a little busy and nobody remembers to give you one, and eventually you end up in this awkward state where you're just watching the game from your own team's perspective, and it's, yeah, it's a little bit funky. Counter push from these Razorback over here. Would have liked to see these repaired back up, especially since they're the very first ones on the field. I feel like you might want to make them as efficient as possible, but either way, it's not like they're going to be inefficient as they push in here. Ooh, Torches, second commander, standing right next to the first, going to explode, sending both of them to their graves. A little bit of a Razorback duel going on over here. 2 versus 1, though. I'm obviously going to favor the 2 over the 1. Finally, a fair fight over here is 4 Razorback engaging against 4 Razorback. If we target fire properly and get a good engagement, wow, neither commander really doing that. But if we either one of those commanders had spread out their Razorbacks and target fired appropriately here, I think either one of them could have won that fight. But I think by sheer blind luck, it's going to end up being Ainz who manages to get the majority victory here. Thor coming in for the final touch, though, going to blast apart the rest of that. Commander goes down to the slow push over here that the sharpshooters are doing. One of my favorite push compositions of all time is the welder sharpshooter. It's just dangerously effective. The fact that they can blast away for such tremendous damage, as well as the fact that the welder can clean up basically any spam that would otherwise counter the sharpshooter's push. Yeah, it makes for a very, very compelling argument against pushing in whatever general direction those sharpshooters tend to be looking in. Fighters are pulled over here, not sure exactly why. There's a Archangel firing away at some of those T1 fighters, and it'll be able to shoot a couple of those down, so that's nice. Any fighter down is a good fighter down. Thor here, trying to hold the line, but it is just a single tank. That is the one thing that the Thor is vulnerable to, is the fact that it is just a single vehicle, and it cannot be in everywhere at once. Oftentimes, they can be a tremendous misfortune. Loads of Twitchers available right here. We desperately need some energy production. I'd love to see a fusion reactor started up, although maybe that's even a little too greedy for right now. Maybe some advanced solar panels would be the right idea. We do have some res bots that are going to patch these ones up, so that'll be nice. And once those are up and running, maybe you'll have enough to actually go into full-blown, full-blown T2 economy production. Wind turbines have never been more dead. Oh, energy storage getting close too. Energy and metal both go down for Guardian's PT. That's unfortunate because this commander does not have a fabulous economy. So all that energy and metal that was stored up right there was basically all that was left in the pockets here for the hot pink commander. All that does get cleaned up by the air forces, by the way, of the tan player, but it is maybe a little bit too little too late. Finally, the swarm does descend from the southern side. All that held them back was a little bit of a T1 wall, and I think this might have been a little bit overdue, as finally the Fiends do jump on top of this base over here. The advanced fusion reactor in a whole lot of trouble, and boom goes the base in the back line here for the red team. The tan commander actually tapped out of the game before that even exploded. And that's going to be a swift and decisive victory here to, or swift and decisive move to close out the victory here for the blue team against the red. What a lovely little match. I did not expect to go all the way to T3 on this. I feel like I hardly ever get to see T3 on this map, but what a fun one it was. I sure hope you enjoyed it, and you can always show your appreciation by hitting the like button, subscribing, or leaving a comment down below. I always like to read the comments, and it gives me a little rush of endorphins every time that I get a notification that a new one has arrived. And I hope I hope you guys get to enjoy using the comment section just as much. Anyways, I hope to see you in the very next Beyond All Reason video. Peace out.